Hello and welcome back to the MMA Split podcast. I'm your host Matt, joined as always by host and producer Josh.
Buenas noches.
Buenas noches ahead of Noche UFC.
Yeah.
Plenty to talk about on this week's episode. UFC 293 in the books. Unbelievably, just spectacularly, shockingly, against all prior logic, expert opinion, the bookies, Vegas,
Us.
We put some caveats in. As
we want to do. Yeah.
As we usually do, and you. Strickland gets it done in Australia. I can't believe it. It happened. I've watched the fight again just to make sure. I'm not dreaming. It did happen. We'll be talking mostly about UFC 293. Good card. Mixed bag for the Aussies.
Yeah.
Mixed bag for the City Kickboxing team. 6 fighters. 3 winners, 3 losers. We'll be talking about that. Volkov, impressively, dominantly beating Tai Tuivasa. We'll be talking about Manel Karp in his fight of the nicer performance against everyone's new favourite debutant, Felipe dos Santos. Couple of great fights on the prelims, plenty of talking points, some F-bombs flying around like there's no tomorrow, and we ain't talking about the 4-letter one. We'll be discussing all of that, and Noche UFC is this weekend. We'll have a look ahead because it may be a fight night, but we've got a title fight. Alexa Grasso defending her belt on Mexican Independence Day against the former champ, Valentina Shevchenko. The UFC have put Shevchenko on the video game. They clearly think one person's winning that fight more than the other. But you never know. And tasty co-main event of Kevin Holland taking on Jack Della Maddalena. We think that's a bad fight for him. We're going to be discussing why. Before we do that, like, subscribe, comment, you know the jazz. If you like us, tell people about us. We need more views. Nice and simple. Got that out of the way.
Done.
All of that. Sorry?
Strickland.
Strickland.
Yeah, you got it out of the way. Done. Sure.
It's off. We're going to go top to bottom on this one. He doesn't just beat Izzy, man. He dominates Israel Adesanya across the 5 rounds, wins a decision, which nobody thought was going to happen, drops and hurts Izzy in the first round. Izzy, I'll say Adesanya just to make it clear, does win the second round. I think I had him winning the second round. I think all 3 judges had him winning the second round. Most of the pundits had him win the second round.
I think the judges were unanimous across the cards on this, though. I think they all scored second and the fifth the same way.
And I think they scored all of them the same way.
Yeah, they did. But I mean, the ones that they gave to Adesanya.
They only gave 1 round to Adesanya.
They
only gave the second round.
Okay.
And I kind of agree with that. Strickland.
Well, yeah, I mean,
walked him down, stayed in his face, took away the kicking range, hurt him in that first round, and from round 3 onwards was just able to constantly do a little bit more than Izzy.
Well, Izzy took away the kicking range as well. Izzy just went straight back to the cage and then just kind of shuffled around, circling out and constantly being widened on the outside. And I'm not saying it's like easy to do. It's not the difference between, like we were saying earlier before we started recording, about Shevchenko. If she comes out really ready to win, wanting to win that kind of performance, she'll win. Taking nothing away from Strickland. It's just that I would love to have seen Izzy when he was going forward, keeping it down the middle with that front kick. When he's backing up, I just want to see him like more aggressively try to circle away and cut an angle and come inside and force a bit more space so that he doesn't constantly have to fight with his back against the cage. Because as soon as he has room while he's backing up, and he's not just constantly running out of real estate, the kicks were there. It's just that he didn't allow himself enough positioning away from the fence to back up enough to create that space, because Strickland was constantly pressuring. You were never going to wait for him to tire down. You were never going to wait for him to concede that space. Like, that was never going to happen. You were going to have to force the issue, and I just didn't see that enough. There were like moments of it, but for the majority of the time, he was just kind of just trying to fight, like ones, 1-2s, and getting tagged and then backing up again, and just not really doing what I've always seen him do so well, which is just kind of live in the pocket, create weird angles, and just fire off nice fast shots that actually stun his opponents. I don't think he really hurt Strickland once.
I don't think he could hurt Strickland, man, and I think that was one of the major issues. So let's go back and look at this first round.
Yeah.
I didn't think Izzy was having a bad first round. Strickland was in his face, but Izzy was getting off some offense. I wasn't seeing that much activity from Strickland. He certainly was able to increase his activity round 3 onwards. But I don't think Izzy was just giving that space up. I think Strickland was doing something that we haven't really seen somebody do against Izzy in MMA. We've seen Izzy fight counter strikers. We've seen Izzy fight wrestlers. We've seen Izzy fight blitzers. So guys like Whitaker, who like to blitz in and strike. Gastelum, blitz in and strike. But he's generally beaten those people and been able to hurt them.
Yeah.
And we've created this kind of viewpoint where even guys that we thought were going to do this end up playing this kind of standing at distance range, not wanting to take any risk. A lot of boring fights. Is he just winning it with a leg kick? What Strickland was able to do was pressure fight. At no point was he ever lunging in. Was he ever overreaching? Everything was nice and tight. That shell, that weird sort of Philly shell, hybrid variant kind of defense he's got, when he's able to move forward, he just could not answer. I feel like a lot of this is Sean just being a bad matchup for Izzy. And because his striking style is so rudimentary, I mean, everything. I think he threw 4 different types of strikes. He had a push kick up the middle, he had a jab, he had a right straight, and he started combining that with a left hook to counter Izzy's right hand in the 3rd round onwards. And he literally just won a world title doing nothing but that against a guy that's considered to be one of the best technical strikers we've ever seen in mixed martial arts. I think you can certainly say that this is not Izzy's best performance, and I think maybe for different reasons than you, I do agree with that in certain aspects. But I think a lot of this was just that, how can I put this, genius and simplicity from Sean Strickland. Just saying, on point, doing this one thing effectively, making it really hard for Izzy to set, and because of his guard, really not making Izzy feel like he could keep him away. It just never felt like Izzy had a shot that he could land, where he could really load up, and he could use that to get away from Strickland. And I kind of think it sort of highlighted that although Izzy's a great kicker, if you take away that kicking range with just a few simple leg kicks and forward pressure, there's a lot missing with the boxing fundamentals. Crying out for just a little bit more just pure boxing in the pocket.
I think after the first round, once he realised that Strickland really could hurt him, it's not like he was like really hurt and that like changed the momentum of the fight. He was able to fight. I thought it was very close to being called off, but he was able to like fight his way out of it. But just the fact that after that, like the exchanges, he was a lot more kind of
hesitant.
Yeah, and again, you hit the nail on the head. Walking him down with the straight shots and not really giving him the space, really like I said, like he had to like force the issue if he was going to do better in that situation and create the space that he needed to really counter. Strickland made that hard for him, but I think also after that first round and getting hurt, like it probably became a little bit more difficult to really try and take those kind of risks and put that extra work in, knowing that you've still got 4 more rounds to go, 3 more rounds to go. Now I'm tired, there's 2 more rounds to go. Like, I can kind of see how, without it being like a case of like, being weak or anything like that, just trying to like balance risk reward and just letting it get away from you. But it was not a good performance from Adesanya. Like, taking nothing away from Strickland. That, if anything, due to Strickland, like you said, but
Well,
I
I'd
would have
say,
expected more.
I think for me, the first 3 rounds I feel are all strict credits to Strickland because he deals with the early figuring out the range, lands that critical, perfectly timed right hand, which again I really feel exposes some holes in Izzy's boxing. You know, the left hook Izzy's trying to land on him is so wide, it's not the right distance.
Yeah.
We see them. He gets away with this. He's had some great knockouts from leaning back and looping that left hook through, but it's not a technical left hook. And if you look at the Pereira fight, the left hook that he hit Strickland with is a far tighter left hook,
Yeah.
which is why it lands. The one he throws, Strickland's right hand was always going to get there first. And it's just little things like that that I think got exposed in this fight. The mentality side for me comes in round 4. Because, okay, first round you get hurt. Second round, you win it. It's not great, it's not exciting, but as Nick Sick put it, you're snake charming him.
Yeah.
He's doubting himself. He's kind of freezing a little bit. You're getting your body shots and you're getting your
Even
kicks
that
off.
second round could have been better, you know? Just, I felt like he was still kind of trying to measure out the tank still.
Yeah. Round 3 comes, and Strickland makes adjustments. He starts including that left hook to follow up Izzy's right hand. He gets back to pressuring. Really, I think it's round 3 where he gets that. I think that's when Strickland gets into that groove of, okay, I know what to do now. I'm seeing your shots. I'm checking the kicks. I'm finding my entries in, and now I'm actually able to land a little bit more to seal these rounds.
Yeah.
For Izzy to go back into the corner, surely knowing he's 2 rounds down. Sorry, he's 2-1 down going into the championship rounds. This is the, like, okay, mate, we need some of that Gastelum fight in you. We need that Izzy right now. We need that guy that we really haven't seen in a while. Because, okay, maybe after round 2 you thought, all right, recalm myself, get back to what we did against Cannonier, against Romero. It's not exciting, but just get your leg kicks off, move around, stay nice and safe. You can't lose this one. This is the one title fight you can't lose. It's the setup. You're on the video game. You got the Drickers fight down the line. This was the... you've promised your boss you're going to deliver a spectacular win. And that's why they've agreed to give Strickland this fight. And we did not see it, man. Strickland started hurting him in that 4th round. Bigger shots started landing. And Rizzy in round 5, man. That was a defeated guy. All of this...
He really started biting on those weird feints coming from that low left. As the fight wore on, they were really starting to affect him. Just freezing him up.
The last 30 seconds of that 5th round, man. And you think about Izzy talking in that Gaston fight, I'm willing to die, and they're going into that 5th round to become the interim champion. There was none of that. I mean, Strickland realised it, dude. The last 30 seconds of that fight, Strickland is just holding his hands up like this, screaming at him with his hands down like this. Because, why is he doing that? Because he knows. He's realised, I've broken this guy. He's not even going to, even if I show him my chin and give him a chance, he's just mentally beaten. I've intimidated him. I've surprised him. I've taken him to a place that he wasn't expecting. And he's shown to me he's not willing to go to that place, at least not today. And the crazy thing is, man, is even with the Pereira fight, the 2 Pereira fights, however spectacular that knockout was in the 2nd round, we didn't have to see Izzy go to that place. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He had the opponent come forward, got reckless, he was able to land that shot. Pereira's a bigger guy than him, so that shot's there for him. You know what I mean? And he landed it, and fair play. But this was that fight where it's like, you need to dig in now, man. You need to accept that this isn't the easy fight you thought it was going to be. And right now, you're getting found out. That's what everyone's thinking right now, is you're getting found out. And he didn't show that willingness to really dig in. And it makes you wonder, it's like, the guy's already been a 2-time champ. He's made all the money in the world. Has been fighting for fucking, I had 100 fights including kickboxing. Is getting on 34 years old. Like, does he still have it in him in the same way he did when he was still trying to become that champion for the first time? It didn't feel like it.
Whether he does or he doesn't, do you think he even wants this rematch?
He avoided the press conference. He sent Eugene Behrman in to do the press conference for him. He said he's going to take some time. Dana White wants to do the rematch. Dana White's very keen to do the rematch. He did not even mention Sean's name once in the post-fight press conference. It was all just about, I don't know what happened with Izzy. His explanation was slow, stiff. He had a bunch of shit that he was saying that I don't actually think was the reason. Does Izzy win a rematch? He has to make adjustments, man. Because right now he looks like somebody that if you can maintain constant pressure and check leg kicks,
yeah,
he won't open up against you. And because he's got that long reach, and because he's not quite as technical in combination, certainly in inside fighting with his hands as you would like a guy to be, that's this genius kickboxer, if you just stay in his face, it's like Edson Barbosa, man. I think you can just beat this guy up. Because there's no takedown threat from Izzy. There's no, Alex Pereira, Jesus Christ, the guy touches me with that left hook wrong and I'm down threat. You really feel like he needs to set that shot up perfectly. And Strickland's defense is just so good. I think he's the kryptonite. And I don't think Strickland beats Dricus.
Well, that's the thing.
I don't think Strickland beats Whitaker.
If Izzy turns down the rematch, then if he was just able to sit and take a title shot, probably going to be an easier fight for him mentally. I still think that on paper, Strickland could potentially be a very winnable fight for him, but he has to kind of take more risks offensively and be a lot more switched on and force those issues. He can't just sit back and let it happen like that again.
I'll tell you what the problem with Strickland is, man. It's a little bit like a tennis player that just allows you to beat yourself. Just constantly getting everything back into play that you throw at them. You can't beat Strickland the way that you can beat Cannonier and Vittori and just stay nice and safe and not take any risk and not get hurt. Like, Strickland is both going to force you to be in a fight. He's going to make you make that decision. He's going to be in your face and he's going to say, we're going to fight. And you've got to have a willingness to get hit to land what you want to land. But he's also not going to be reckless enough to give you any stupid mistake that you can then capitalize on. He's got one of the best defenses striking that we've seen in a long time. I mean, he absorbed what, like 9 strikes to the head? Maybe one of them was clean? This is a hard fight for Izzy, and if he wants to win it, it's not just going to be about being technically good. It's about getting back to that Gastelum mentality and saying, I'm letting my right hand go.
Yeah.
I'm letting it go, and I'm setting it up, and I'm throwing uppercuts and going for spinning elbows and taking risk where I might get caught clean again, but I'm going to take that risk to hurt you and beat you.
Was he throwing an uppercut when he got dropped in the first?
No, it was the left hook. He saw the jab and tried to throw a wide left hook, and obviously Strickland had already stepped in with the right hand. So, but again, it's boxing fundamentals, man. When you're a kickboxer and you're used to everything being at the end of your reach, you get away with these things because there's more distance. Somebody's right up in your face. You got to understand you're inside fighting now. The head movement's different. The way that you roll is different. The stuff that you can get away with is different. You can't be throwing a hook like this. You've got to be throwing it like this. Yeah. And I know, I've heard some people say, oh, well, when, because he's got such long a reach, it's hard for him to get his shots off in the same way. It's like, yeah, that's the same issue John Jones has. You know what John Jones would have done in that situation at that range? He would have thrown an elbow.
Yep. I mean...
Crazy stat for you.
Yeah, go on.
Izzy is 4-3 in his last 7 fights.
Yeah.
For a guy that you and I were sure was going to be the GOAT before the Blachowicz fight. And it really highlights how impressive a title run like GSP's was, like Anderson Silva's was, like Jones, like Mighty Mouse. Because god damn it, to do it again and again and again, for God knows how many times in a row, when you're going to have an off night, you're going to have a Vitor Belfort pull a fucking arm triangle that you didn't see coming,
Yeah.
that you thought you were going to run through. A Gustafsson where you didn't train as hard because you just thought, I can beat this guy. And fuck me, it turns out that's a real dude in front of you and he's ready. And he's having the night of his life.
And has a similar frame.
And a similar frame. And maybe a bad star matchup for you in good takedown defense. And you got to make that decision to dig in and do something different and find a way. Or an Anderson Silva where it's like, fuck me, I thought Chael Sonnen was an idiot. But here he is about to win a world title. I've got to fucking have something I can pull out of my arse.
Yeah.
And, you know, okay, I know Mighty Mouse's was a different run, but okay, that's just, I'm just so good compared to everyone else that I'm going to do this again and again and again. We haven't seen that from Izzy, and although he's a great champion, I think he's the standout champion of the last few years, certainly. He's done such a good job of creating rivalries and interest, put together a great title defense run, beaten a lot of good guys. He's not Anderson Silva, man. We can't put him in that GOAT chat.
No, I think...
Hall of Famer, yeah, not a GOAT.
Fights like that, performances like that, it will forever kind of taint you, you know. Ngannou has the Lewis fight, Namajunas has the Esparza fight, and now Izzy's got the Strickland fight. Although it's not quite on the same level of like shit in the bed, it's still, in terms of the disappointment people around you are going to feel, the fans are going to feel, it's that kind of level.
It's also, it's got to be one of the biggest decision title win upsets. So we know Holly Holm was a bigger underdog against Ronda Rousey. We know Leon Edwards, but you know, there's been big title upsets.
Sarah GSP.
Sarah GSP.
But they're all finishes.
All finishes. All kind of felt like, okay, these things can happen in fights. You find a moment, you take advantage of that moment. This does feel different. Like, this is like Cody Garbrandt beating Dominic Cruz. But even that was still like, you know, Cody Garbrandt was an undefeated, hot prospect fighter in that.
It's Namajunas Esparza.
Yeah, but that's a weird, that fight is so weird that I don't even know if we can include that. And even that fight, you still have Esparza beating Rose the first time, so it's still plausible. You've still seen it happen. You still know that, like, there's a world in which that situation has already occurred.
Yeah.
6-1 he was, man. 17-1 on decision. God, I wish I put some money on that. I was going to put money on him to win by finish, and Tom talked me out of it. And I'm actually quite glad, because I would have been I would have been so excited at the end of round one, then absolutely bitterly miserable when I realised it was going to be a decision win. Because I would have got greedy. Say la vie.
Well, I suppose what the cash out was after the first round.
Is there anything else you want to say on this main event? We've talked Dana. He wants the rematch.
Yeah.
We've talked...
I don't know if that's going to happen. But what we'll do is we'll make a quick cut. I've seen the camera glitch like 5 times.
Oh, shit.
Insane.
And we're back. Glitch fixed, I think. Hopefully it's not too glitchy.
Touch wood.
We're going to move on from the main event. I just want to sort of touch very briefly on a couple last things on it. Obviously, you feel like Izzy shit the bed. I kind of agree with you, but think Sean deserves some credit. Do you have to say, and we touched on this kind of last week a little bit as well, is there an element where Sean's just one of those guys that gets under Izzy's skin? Because the press conference, all the fucking drumming in he did, the stuff about Izzy touching his dog, Izzy took that so personally that the first thing that he said after the fight was over is, come on, dude, that's my dog, man. I've got him tattooed on my neck. Like, all the rest fine. Like, just, come on, dude. Like, I would never do that to my dog. It makes me wonder whether or not Sean did get under his skin a little bit.
Yeah, I feel like he did a little bit, but at this stage, you know, you're fighting with these stakes. You know, you've been the champion before, champion for a while. If this stuff is affecting your performance, there's more that you've already beat yourself. Like, what's going on that you're not just focused and just getting ready? Because, you know, you've been fighting at a high level for a long time. It should feel more instinctive than that.
Well said. Sean Strickland was sparring 20 rounds a day, apparently,
Yeah.
in preparation for this fight. Although I'll tell you what, if you can get hit as little as he gets hit in his fights, I don't think sparring's the same as it is for other people.
Probably not, but he does also get the whole people aren't prepared to be bullied like that. If you've sparred with him before, and Sam Alvey did tell us that, you know, he goes through sparring partners a lot, but he does occasionally get some that stick. You got to figure that those guys are learning how to get some openings and definitely aren't getting phased in the same way anymore. But
I agree with that. We've got other fights to talk about. Sean Strickland's the champ. May God have mercy on our souls. I love it. I think this is going to be really entertaining. I can't wait to see what happens. I was so happy when I saw this happen. From like a shock, surprise.
Well,
sometimes you don't know who you're truly a fan of until the fight happens. It's like when Izzy fought Pereira. I was so sure that like there was a part of me that wanted Pereira to win because I picked Pereira to win that first fight. And I was gutted when Izzy lost. I was delighted when he won the belt back. Yeah, I'm happy to see Sean Strickland win. It's a weird world and a funny sport.
Yeah, what's cool though is the UFC are going to want to turn him around quickly, hoping he loses. And I think he's probably going to want to turn fight. I don't know for sure, but I could definitely see him, you know, wanting to be active and turning fights around quickly. I think it might be fun for him.
Judging from what he said in the post-fight, I don't think he's under any illusions that him winning the belt is the same as Sean O'Malley winning the belt. He's sort of saying, I'm not going to pick who I fight, they're going to tell me. That's how it's always worked for me.
Yeah.
And then you've got Sean O'Malley just being like, well, there's these guys ranked at the top, but I really like that number 6 Cheeto Vera fight.
To be fair, though, everyone likes that Cheeto Vera fight.
I know, but I'm just saying that these things are not always made equal. And Sean seems to be aware of that. And I love him for it.
So if he keeps winning, we're going to get a lot of title fights.
Yeah. Man loves to fight.
Prospect.
Man loves to fight. Let's talk about another 2 people that love to fight, because they have a lot of fights. And they're usually pretty entertaining. Co-main event.
Didn't disappoint.
It was entertaining. It's just very one-sided.
Yeah, I mean, kind of thought that like that could potentially happen a little bit, but I just assumed at some point Ty would be able to catch Volkov, and it just never really came to fruition. Volkov was just too strong, too powerful with what he was able to get off early, and then
it's funny.
That Ezekiel choke was pretty cool.
In my mind, you kind of think I thought Volkov was going to win, but I thought Ty, he can throw in combination if he can get on the inside. He's got the leg kicks. And then you see them
wear those shots.
And then you kind of see them matched up at the beginning and the size difference. It's like, I know Volkov's a big guy and he dwarfs a lot of people, but he really made Tuivasa look small. And I did kind of think it's like, man, you trying to get on the inside, it doesn't look the same as like when Derek Lewis was smaller than Volkov, but it didn't seem impossible for him to be able to get close and be able to get in distance and land something hypothetically.
Yeah, you kind of need to get him to buy it on a feint because he's not the best athlete when he's like kind of frozen or backing up. Like that's where it's going to happen.
And I've got to say, it was a really good performance from Volkov. Even the leg kicks he was eating, like his leg looked a little beaten up, but he also checked more of those kicks than I think the commentary gave him credit for. I don't really feel like... I think they were trying to do a kind of good job of keeping excitement going in the second round and saying, oh, Ty just needs to land a few more of those leg kicks, but it never felt to me like Volkov was in any real danger. I think he had a good measure of control in that fight. He was very dominant. He was hurting him everywhere. And if it wasn't that Ezekiel choke, it was just a matter of time. And for however much work Ty's done, when you've got those kind of weights and you've got a guy that big on top of you, and let's be honest with Ty, some of that weight you've got is not necessarily efficient weight. It's hard to get somebody like that off you. That Ezekiel choke was nice, but only a matter of time.
Yeah.
If it wasn't that, it was going to be ground and pound. If he got into the third round, he was probably going to be finished in the third round. Volkov is a gatekeeper for a reason. You got to be like, yeah, he loses to the guys that become world champs or fight for titles, but he fucking beats everyone else. A lot of good names. And Ty's not that level. Derek Lewis isn't that level. He just fucking managed to land the miracle shot.
But that's kind of why Derek Lewis is that level. It's just that, that equaliser.
Yeah. But no, you got to be an Aspinall. You've got to be a Garn. You've got to be a Jones. You've got to be a Blades. You've got to be that real top 5 of the division.
Yeah.
Otherwise, he's a fucking nightmare. And it's tough for Ty. I think that's twice he's fought for the UFC in Australia. I'm pretty sure he's lost both times.
Who was the first one?
I think he fought Sergey Spivak. Ages ago now. I'll confirm this. Feel free to talk and make conversational things happen while...
yeah, well, I mean, do you want to move on to the F-bombs while you're scrolling through that?
Can we please... We need to talk about the F-bombs,
but
we can't obviously say the F-bombs for the most obvious reason.
Yeah.
So just understand that when we say the F-bombs, let's just say it's a discriminatory term for someone of the LGBTQIA WSL plus persuasion. Fucking nailed every single one.
I usually, I remember Al.
Al's the most important one, man. Al has all the value. It was Sergey Spivak at UFC 243. And he also lost to Junior Dos Santos in Adelaide, Australia.
Oof.
Has he ever won in Australia? He has. He won against Rashad Coulter with a flying knee KO in his UFC debut in Sydney, Australia. And then he won in Perth, Australia.
Yeah, because there was a shoey in Australia, I'm sure.
Yeah. Unfortunately, his last few outings to Australia.
Yeah.
Not so good.
Well, just in general, you're moving on up. You're going to lose some fights.
Before we wrap up, that's 3 losses in a row for Ty.
Yeah.
He's just a fun fighter, isn't he? He shouldn't be fighting these elite guys.
Well, he was always a fun fighter, but then he went on a bit of a run, so it was kind of exciting to see, how much he might develop. But I don't know. Like, he's still, how old is he? He's kind of early to mid-30s, I think.
30, I think. 31. He's not ancient.
So heavyweight, he has got time. If he can, I think he is going to be better off trimming down a little bit. Because he was always so explosive and surprisingly athletic. If he really allowed his body to embrace that a bit more, he could definitely be a much more dangerous guy, kind of closing that distance and getting inside.
I think he needs to build himself back up. Give him a number 11 ranked guy that's not Gelson Almeida or Sergey Spivak. Give him like a Jarzenia. Give him a winnable fight against somebody that isn't a technical 6'7" Russian kickboxer, or an elite takedown monster, or Sergey Pavlovich.
I think that in a sense, Volkov was supposed to be that, in that everyone kind of assumes that Father Time's catching up with him, that the drop off is going to happen any day now. We weren't sure before the fight. Now I still think that going into the next fight, that will be part of my thought process. How much can he really move at this point? Fuck it.
F-bombs.
Yeah, Manel Kape.
2 decision wins. 1 excellent fight. 1 pretty one-sided fight. Both fights, winners utter this F-bomb. And both of them, after beating or either not being the fan favourite going in for shit that they've said, or fighting a local fighter, which is obviously going to mean the fans aren't going to be on your side.
Yeah.
I feel some context is in order.
Yeah, well, Kape was booked as the bad guy.
Yeah.
Originally slated for Kai Kara France.
He has a valid reason to be upset. He fought injured. Kai Kara France pulled out with an injury, and Kai Kara France's coach went on a whole tirade about how Dricus should have fought injured and taken the title fight for UFC 293 injured, because that's what their fighters do. And if you really want it to move ahead in this sport, then you need to fight our champion, even if you're not at 100%.
Yeah.
And then Kai Kara France pulls out. He's upset, has an awesome fight of the night. Excellent fight with Felipe Dos Santos, who was so much fun. Yeah. That kid came to fight, did not get deterred, had to eat a lot of counter shots, was dealing with a much faster fighter.
But still put it on him when he could.
Length, range, loads of dangerous stuff, great attitude. Carp gets the win, calls all of the City Kickboxing team a bunch of... It rhymes with maggots.
I think it was already pretty obvious, but yeah.
I know. So we've got that incident. So we've got one guy calling an entire team. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we've got Radke, earlier on the card, calling the entire fans in attendance.
Yeah.
A bunch of... So...
And pussies, and come down and fight me, and...
all this kind of stuff.
Out Colby Covington.
You can't say this stuff on TV. Definitely not on the prelims, where it's on ESPN Plus at at some points 3 in the afternoon for West Coast audiences.
And do you want to touch on the Radke Blood Diamond fight later, or should we talk about Daniel Cormier's reaction now, because that was pretty funny.
Yeah, go on. We can talk about that now.
Just as soon as Radke has that little tirade. I got words out. Cormier is just there, and obviously this is not the pay-per-view portion, so you can't swear during these fights. He goes, "You can't." What? And then just then just walk there's no interview now. Just walks out of the cage. Fucking hilarious. Exactly what Radke deserved after that. Idiot. Saying stupid shit.
It's a dumb thing to say when you're on public television in the public sphere. It is worth distincting. I don't think either of these two guys are trying to direct that at gay, lesbian, LGBT people as a specific offence.
Yeah.
They're not trying to specifically discriminate. It's used in the same way as somebody might say, I don't know if I can say cunt on YouTube, but we just said it, cunt, twat, or wanker, all this kind of stuff. They're all offensive words. They're designed to offend. Obviously, the word they use is a word that's also used to discriminate in certain situations. My kind of joke that I made to you earlier was that Carp's is worse than it isn't as bad as Radke's, because Carp said it to a specific group of people, all of whom, as far as we know, are openly straight, whereas Radke said it to an entire arena full of people that very well might be from all walks of life. So at least some of those people were discriminated against. But it's not good.
It's stupid, it's offensive, it's ignorant.
It's a little funny, because you don't hear it said on TV very often. So there was definitely a shock laugh from me. It's one of the things I love about the UFC is that it can just be completely outrageous in a way that nothing else is. However, I would like the UFC to be a mainstream sport. I would like more people to watch the UFC, because that brings in more money and revenue and respect, and I can start having my family members think that I watch WWE because they just hear 3 letters in wrestling and they connect the rest of the dots. Catching up with Michael the other day, he was just like, I don't know why you still watch that stupid WWE, it's all fake. I'm just like, oh, I don't want to have this conversation again. So I'd like MMA to be mainstream. And for it to be mainstream, you can't have your athletes, particularly one on the main card, but certainly still one on the prelims, on free live TV in the daytime, say stuff like this. Nothing's going to happen. Because it's just there's a kind of irony to it, isn't it? It's like we watch these people punch each other and kick each other and elbow and knee each other in the face for 15 minutes, but then everyone freaks out over one word that's said. But I think some context is necessary. Still, don't say it.
Yeah.
Don't get this sport cancelled. Don't get yourself cancelled.
And just touching on Carp, wasn't like a bad performance at all. But it's like
When you say that you
is
can
is
do
Felipe
whatever,
dos Santos just secretly like really really good, or is Carp showing some cracks?
he's always shown cracks, man. He's one of these guys
I know, but
where
before a lot of it came down to slow starts and playing catch up, and you could kind of see like where these mistakes were being made and why. This wasn't a slow start. This was just defensively and just with his positioning. I wouldn't say tactically, just sort of technically with his positioning, just very off.
I think he struggled with the height and the reach. He was probably hitting him with counters that he was expecting to either deter him or put him down, and they didn't. I think mentality is his biggest issue. He lost his first couple of fights in the UFC because he
threw away the first round.
He threw away the first round, and some of that is because he used to fighting him Rise, and some of that is this, I'm so good, I'm just levels above, I'm just going to find my reads and then land this perfect shot and get you out of here. And I think there's an element of the same thing that probably happened to Adesanya to an extent, man. It's like, this guy isn't at my level, I don't know him, he's beneath me, I'm going to run through him. And then all of a sudden you're fighting a guy that maybe you haven't watched as much tape on as you would have liked. There isn't as much tape on as there was on Kai Kara France. He's kind of big, he's kind of tough, he's got that dog in him.
Very fast.
Very fast. Yeah, and listen, not Kai Kara France. Manel Karp is a really good striker, but we haven't seen him grapple. And as with all things in this sport, if you only master one element of it, you've got to be exceptional at that one element. And you're always going to have fights that are going to be difficult because you don't have that other.
They only have to game plan against one thing.
Exactly. He's not very big, very explosive, and extremely fast for those counters. But I did feel like Felipe dos Santos could kind of pressure him and then strike without having. There was a nice range he could kind of make things happen at.
Yeah, and when he was tagging him. Carp was coming back quite heavy, and it's at those moments that when you get caught, you get really rocked. So I was constantly concerned that Carp was just going to throw that away.
Still think he beats Kai Kara France if they fight.
I think so. I hope we get to see that anyway.
We need to see that fight next. There's been too much shit talking.
Oh, for fucking sure.
Well, we saw 2 outstanding first round finishes on the main card. Which was your favourite? The sending to the Shadow Realm followed by heavyweight ground and pound punches from Justin Taffer, taking full vengeance on 2 eye pokes across the 2 fights and leaving no mercy. Or the Pleasure Man getting absolutely starched by Tyson Pedro, and Tyson Pedro pulling out a celebration that might be even cooler than
Samurai.
The 3 arrows fired in. The samurai sword with the throwing off of the excess blood and then the slow draw into the sheath. That was pretty fucking gangster.
That was pretty gangster. I'm going to go with Taffer though. I also like the, what was that last shot for? It's like, that was from my eye. Like,
oh, dude, when he poked him in the eye the second, again, at the start of this fight, there is a look in Justin Taffer's eye. When I was watching, I was just
in
like...
his other eye.
In his other eye. It's like... This man is going to the hospital today, I think. Like, he just has that look in his eye of like, I am going to fucking hurt you. Like, you little bitch. And he would have walked off, but the ref gave him that 1 second to be like...
Well, I think he was disappointed. He caught him at the end of the shot. Like, he felt like it wasn't done yet.
He looked like he enjoyed landing those follow-up shots, though. And those are some of the most terrifying follow-up shots I think I've ever seen. I mean, Justin Taffer, of all the men that you would not want having motivation to put extra damage on at the end of a fight, fuck me.
Yeah.
He is the new Mark Hunt. And his brother's a good fighter as well. That's going to be a fun little combo in the heavyweight division.
Yeah, and... fuck it.
Tyson Pedro.
Yeah, let's get into that a bit.
He's not that good, but he's fun.
I don't think he's that bad. I like him.
He's not that bad.
I think there's some potential there. His
He's
thing
got a
though is
cool
like,
ass
you know,
celebration.
he'll hurt guys and then get hurt and then it can go either way. But that was a great fight. Or a great performance.
Pleasure Man had his moments.
Who got the bonuses?
Taffa
And then
Cap.
Carp dos Santos
And Strickland.
yeah.
I kind of like that as well. It's a performance bonus for a reason. It shouldn't always be a knockout or a submission.
Yeah.
And that was the standout performance. Although, I would like to spare a thought as we move on to the prelims, slightly out of order, for Hack Parast versus...
Oh, yeah. When I saw that, I was like, well, Fight of the Night's in the bank.
Oh, God. Who did Hack Parast fight?
Landon Quinones.
That's the one.
Because I'm the one guy that watched Ultimate Fighter. But I got to be honest, right?
You fought well, man.
Yeah, but when that dude was on the Ultimate Fighter, he just got absolutely starched by Jason Knight. Like, first round submission, like, first minute submission, I think. And obviously, like, anything can happen. You know, it's not like I was like, right, I know exactly what kind of fighter this guy is. I saw, like, you know, maybe 30 seconds of him actually, like, doing something. So I had no idea, but I'm kind of excited that the guy's in the UFC now. That was a great fight. I think he lost every round, but, like, they were close rounds.
He was in every fight.
Like...
He was in every round, sorry.
Hagparast looked busted up. His face was fucked up.
Dig in, man.
Yeah.
And you know what?
And he fucking did.
And he might have won every round, at least on one of the judges' scorecards, but going into that belt, I wasn't 100% sure.
No, you never know.
I was kind of looking back, you know.
Close enough.
And Hagparast, there was a lot that he was doing to the body. I love body work, but that doesn't always get scored very well by the judges. Like, Quinones had every belief that he might have been able to sneak that at the end. And he was in that fight.
Yeah.
I think it was something like 173 strikes to 143 landed or something. Some crazy number.
Volume and accuracy.
It wasn't quite the fight of the night. I agree with it being Carp versus Felipe Santos.
Yeah.
I think the level was better. But that's one of those you kind of hope the UFC chucks some extra money to because that was a really, really good fight.
Because they're spending a lot of their paycheck at the hospital, right? Like this week still, I imagine.
Also, not just that, but this is Hagparast's first fight, I think, in a year.
Yeah, and he had all the emotion from the earthquake in Morocco.
Previous fight, I think the Dan Hooker loss, and I think that was when his mum had just died or something like that.
Shit, yeah.
So he needed a win, man. He needed to get back in that, get some positivity going. And for Quinones, he belongs.
Yeah. I definitely excited watching fight again.
That was a very good decision. Couple of finishes, although very different context on the prelims. Carlos Ulberg. This guy looks really good.
Yeah.
Not just a first round knockout artist. He can win on decision. He can also win on
submission.
Video refereed submission.
Yeah.
I didn't see the hand move, but I did sort of look at that and think there's no way. Like, he's had that locked in.
Yeah.
There's no way Da Jong hasn't tapped. It's just not possible. It didn't change the result, but...
Yeah.
Good for him to get that submission, and tough luck for Da Jong. Do you think a part of him thought, I know I've lost, but they didn't see the tap. I get the decision at least. And then he sees them going through the video referee. He's like, oh, fuck. Damn.
No, I think a lot of him was just like, how did I keep eating that fucking jab? Like, I'm pretty sure that was the only thing going through his head was Ulberg's left hand and just that one thought.
No, he's a really dynamic striker, man. Really, really technically good. Good power.
And defensively a lot more responsible than he was against Kennedy and Jechikov. Like,
that fight, well, I can see that being a rematch down the road.
Well, Ulberg was kicking his ass since he started doing that stupid shit with, like...
reaching the hands out.
Yeah.
That's Izzy's bad influence, I think. That's like an Adesanya special, which works when you've got an 80-inch reach advantage.
Yeah.
Carlos Ulberg's a bit more classically proportioned. Great performance from him. Really good performance from Jack Jenkins. Right up until it wasn't, man. I mean, I've seen that happen a couple of times, but it's a nasty fucking injury.
Yes. Posts off on his arm while getting like hip tossed and just dislocates that elbow.
You kind of
And he was
wonder,
kicking
it's
his ass
so
as well.
instinctive though. I mean, it's
Yeah.
that's unlucky. And he'd been a lot of fun in the UFC generally. But fair play to Chape Mariscal because he wasn't in that fight and he could have wilted. But he changed things up. He made something happen.
Yeah.
And he got a little bit of luck for it. Can't take that away from him.
Yeah. I'm sure his leg
Dislocated.
feels fucked up though.
Dislocated elbow, that's got to be goddamn fucking agony.
Yeah, Brazilian fighter, she did her elbow like a month or two ago. That was the worst one.
God, yeah. Who was that?
Oh, Jesus. That's going to bother me. And I can't be bothered to look it up.
No, me neither, but I remember the reaction and it was pretty fucking grim.
Yeah.
Ugh. Okay,
Shit,
I'm going to have to look at my phone to
Yeah,
remember.
where haven't we covered? Radke, Blood Diamonds.
Red Cape Blood Diamond.
Blood Diamond again looks like he improves, but just
He's not the level, man.
yeah. I mean, it's Radke, so.
Malarkey John McDessie.
Oh Jesus
I
Christ!
thought McDessie sneaked this one.
Yeah. I mean, it was really hard to tell. I could have gone either way.
The only other fights we haven't talked about are the opening two. Shane Young got
Oof. Yeah. Got his ass kicked. And then the other city kickboxer, the French guy, Juicy.
opening
Yeah.
submission.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember who the opponent was now.
I'll tell you. Just had my phone out.
I'm doing a good podcast today, I tell you.
It was
And I watched this on Monday.
Kiefer Crosby.
That was
Kiefer
it,
Crosby.
yeah. The Irishman.
So City Kickboxing finished 3-3. Loser title. Effectively on home ground. Although only in a sport like MMA would they consider Australian land to be home ground for a Kiwi.
Yeah, the not severe jet lag. Huge advantage.
Yeah. 3-3 is not great losing a championship belt. And I remember back when Izzy won his belt in 2019. And Volkanovski obviously then became the featherweight champion. And Dan Hooker was doing his thing. And it looked like City Kickboxing had completely figured out the game. And it's interesting how MMA can evolve and change. It's like Top Team, looking at it from the gym perspective. There was a time when American Top Team were the kings. There was a time when it was all about Sanford MMA or Killcliff as it is now. Or there was a time when it was all Jackson Wink.
Which I think, to be fair to Top Team, even if they haven't been winning fights or having champions, they have always been. I think at first there was kind of an idea that they didn't know, you kind of trying to put too much talent in the room, you throw money at things the wrong way. But it became very obvious very quickly that they really cared about what they were doing and that they had a good enough balance and culture and attitude to kind of manage that many, that many big personalities. But those other gyms for sure have had ups and downs, and some of it's having the right fighter at the right gym. Some of it's being at the gym at the right time.
True.
It's hard to sustain success in any kind of walk of life. Coaching, running gyms, managing, it all kind of gets affected, same as everything else does. Sometimes you kind of on a bit of a downtime. Although Jackson Wing just had so many issues. That could be the only home for John Jones, even if he is semi-kicked out.
I don't think it's for the same reason with City Kickboxing. But it is funny that kind of you can have these peaks and troughs, or maybe your style just gets figured out. Guys are getting better at checking leg kicks, pressuring, taking certain weapons away. It is interesting nonetheless. Great card. Surprising card. I did not expect many of the things to happen. We've got another card coming up this weekend.
Yes.
It is officially named Noche UFC. Not UFC Noche. Noche UFC.
Noche UFC.
So, Josh, I challenge you and myself
Go on.
2, in the honor of Mexican Independence Day, and flyweight champion Alexa Grasso, do the rest of the podcast in Espanol.
Pues creo que no podemos hablar en español para más que 2, 3 frases.
Vale.
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 It's a V. It's a V.
It's
but
a V.
you pronounce it as a V.
Well, I say vale.
That's wrong. It's vale.
Amigo, claro. No necesita hablar con español, es solo divertido, porque UFC Noche, and tú hablar...
Muy bien.
Okay.
Entonces, esta semana, este fin de semana, tenemos Alexa Grasso
Oh,
contra
you're actually doing this?
Valentina Shevchenko.
Sí. Alexa Grasso con primera combatidora,
Yeah.
evento,
La campeona.
la campeona, con submisión. Mucha sorpresa. Ahora tiempo. Pero, con segunda, contesto.
Assuming anyone's still watching, there's no way anyone's enjoying this.
I only started it as a joke. The reason we wanted to do it as a joke is we both find it really funny that they've called it Noche UFC.
Well, no, it makes sense to me.
Makes sense to you. I didn't realise for 2 weeks because I've started watching the UFC with my girlfriend, so I try and put the Spanish broadcast on. So I just thought it was all in Spanish, and that's why it said Noche UFC. It's only like a week later I watched the broadcast in English and it still said Noche UFC. That I realised.
Well,
How
how is she not taught you ballet yet?
I know ballet.
But it's not ballet, it's ballet.
She does not criticise. We talk in Spanglish. It's like a half English, half Spanish hybrid that we both kind of like.
Yeah, I understand Spanglish. I'm a twat that lives in Spain that barely speaks Spanish. As we already recorded and will soon upload to YouTube.
Her English is better than my Spanish, so there's more English than Spanish in the Spanglish. And normally I don't have
So V's are pronounced as B's.
I'm aware of this.
So Xabi Hernandez and Xabi Alonso, it's spelled differently, Xabi, but it's the same name. Like, same pronunciation.
Alright.
So it's ballet.
I appreciate this.
Do you know the one that like I've never figured out though, and every time I ask someone, they just think about it and then walk away. Por favor or por favor, like
I say por favor.
I just say porfa because everyone says porfa, but
Apparently it's rude to say that in Spanish culture.
well, porfa.
No, por favor.
Yeah.
Please is not used the same in Spanish as it's used in English. It's like in English we view it as like an extra thing for like being polite. In Spain it's like an insistence. So to say por favor, it's like a plea of like, I need this attention now. So it kind of comes across as demanding.
I think I say about the same amount that the actual people that speak Spanish say.
It was my Andalusian friend who said that, so he might have been referring to how it's used in Andalusia. It might be different in Catalonia. But then again, they also speak Catalan here. And that's a different language. Either way, Alexa Grasso is fighting Shevchenko. They clearly don't believe in Grasso because they're not putting this on a pay-per-view. It's on a fight night. They've put Shevchenko on the cover of the fucking video game UFC 5 that's coming out in a few weeks. They're not doing that thinking that they're not going to have her as a champion on that cover. My question to you is, can Alexa Grasso repeat the magic of March 5th?
Whenever it was. Yeah, for sure. If Shevchenko doesn't take this seriously, doesn't come out super hungry, absolutely could get away from her again. But I've definitely got to pick Shevchenko in this. I feel.
So you don't believe Grasso's skills are better than Shevchenko's skills, or she can't implement?
I feel like if they're both on their best night, Shevchenko wins.
I think that's fair.
And I'm not saying that that's necessarily what's going to happen because, there's a lot going on in a fight camp, injuries and things. there must be a lot going on psychologically once she lost the previous fight. The thing is, you know, she's bullet for a reason. You know, she's got that kind of straight line focus. I think she's going to come out just about as nasty as we've ever seen her.
I think Grasso's a really intelligent fighter that has a really good team behind her.
Yeah.
You look at that first fight, she almost entirely fought from the southpaw stance in order to take away those kicks from Shevchenko. That's a high level of striking acumen, and it suggests a huge amount of confidence in your striking ability to say, in your hardest ever fight, you're going to fight out of your most natural stance. It also suggests that they can game plan well. You look at that first fight, and you wonder, okay, Shevchenko was having success with the wrestling when she was on top, and that jab was working really nicely. Can she focus on that? Can she take away the spinning wheel kicks? Those were getting her in trouble. An argument can be made that if she doesn't get stood up in the fourth round, and she just cuts the spinning body kicks out of her arsenal, she wins that fight. But, Teddy Atlas's logic, you become the champ, you get a little 30% boost in your confidence, in your ability, in how hard maybe you're willing to fight. Shevchenko's 35. I did think she looked a little slow. Grasso gives up a lot of weight and size, being effectively a strawweight that I think could still fight at strawweight with a full nutrition team, but is doing a thing at flyweight. I think that's always going to be hard to contest over. That being said, she was a lot faster than Shevchenko. A lot faster. Faster with the footwork, faster with the hands, faster with her reaction time of grabbing the back. It's a tall ask, but I think Grasso's going to do it. There is one champion left from Mexico. They had 3 not that long ago. She's holding up the flag, and nothing would make me laugh more than the UFC having 2 of their 3 cover stars not be the champions, when clearly they put them on the video game thinking they were going to have 3 champions to be able to sell. Come on, Grasso. Do it. Do it. Viva Mexico.
I still like Shevchenko in this fight.
She probably wins. The smart money is Shevchenko. Unless she's a massive favourite on the bookies, in which case put your money on Grasso.
Yeah. Worth a swerve.
Co-main event. Holland, Jack Della Maddalena. Tell me why this is a bad fight for Kevin Holland.
Kevin Holland needs time in the stand-up. You know, he works best against grapplers and wrestlers that, even though they're trying to pressure, when they reset, they concede stupid distances. They're not as educated with their positioning. Jack Della Maddalena's just kind of going to walk up to him and then walk through him. Holland's got a bit of power, but he's not going to get those clean shots in against Jack, and he's going to be, you know, kind of having to keep constantly moving his guard up and down and trying to roll away. He's just not really going to get those funky shots off in the same way. He's not going to take anyone down. Jack's not going to take him down, so his ground game is going to be nullified because it's just not going to fucking happen. This is just an awful, awful fight for him. He needs a much smaller welterweight that's going to try and grapple with him, and you know,
or a taller welterweight that likes fighting at distance.
Yeah.
Jack's a problem for everybody unless you can grapple. He's going to walk forward. He's going to expose boxing fundamental holes in Kevin Holland's kung fu-based striking style. Kevin Holland's never been dropped. I think he gets dropped.
I can see that.
I don't think he makes the final bar.
Me either. I think Jack goes through him.
Is there anything else you'd like to talk about?
I mean, there's some other fights. We've got Rosas Jr. fighting.
He's fighting a good guy as well. He's fighting...
Yeah, I need to look it up as well.
I mean, a guy... You look at the number of fights this other guy's got and the record. They are not selling him up, that's for damn sure.
Kopylov is fighting Josh Fremd.
On the prelims. That
I think might be a fun highlight finish for Kopylov.
Here we go.
Go on.
Rosas Jr. versus Terence Mitchell. Terence Mitchell is 14-3.
Yeah.
Did lose to Cameron Simon, but Cameron Simon's pretty good.
Anything else worth talking about on this card beforehand? We'll obviously do a breakdown next week. But
A couple of versus Josh Rum's a fun fight. I think Tracy Cortez.
yes,
Long time
yeah.
since we've seen her taking on the rising, red hot Jasmine Javicius. That's a hard fight for Tracy.
Loopy's fighting.
If he's
Elise
fighting
Reed.
Elise Reed, I'd back her to win that. The Cortez Jazz Davicius fight could be interesting because Jazz Davicius walked through Miranda Maverick like she wasn't there, dominated her. And Tracy Cortez hasn't looked spectacular in the last few fights.
She could be a little wooden sometimes as well.
A lot of time off in between fights, big breakup. I think she's had the baby of Brian Ortega and they are no longer together. So, can she pull it together? Put the personal drama aside? We will find out and talk about it next week. Until then, enjoy the fights coming up. Have a great week. Thanks for watching. If anyone's made it this far, buenas noches.
Godspeed.